Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into The Ministry of Time, which is Kaliane Bradley's debut novel.
Oh, yeah, The Ministry of Time.
It's gotten quite a bit of buzz and
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting take on kind of a blend of genres. So we've got a little bit of sci-fi in there and a little bit of romance.
yeah, it's kind of a unique blend
Yeah.
of science fiction and romance and historical fiction.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so interesting about it is that it uses all those different genres to explore
Right.
really complex themes, especially around like the human impact of time travel, you know?
Yeah, it's not just about the technology. It's about
Right, exactly.
what happens to the people.
Yeah, it's the ripple effects and the personal stories that unfold when,
Right.
past and present collide.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the book takes us to near-future London, where we meet our protagonist, who is a British-Cambodian civil servant
Okay.
working for this very clandestine government agency.
Yeah.
And their mission is to retrieve people from different historical periods.
Yeah. They're called expats from history. And the novel really keeps their purpose in the present kind of shrouded in secrecy,
Yeah.
which immediately kind of raises these questions of, who has the right to manipulate history
Right.
and what the consequences might be.
Right away, you start thinking about all the ethical implications of this.
Absolutely.
And, his latest assignment introduces us to Commander Gore, who is a British naval officer from the 1847 Franklin expedition.
Wow.
So you think about this figure plucked from a frozen wasteland and thrust into the 21st century.
It's a fascinating setup, and that's where the romance element comes in.
Right.
You have the protagonist who's helping Gore kind of navigate this new world, and their relationship deepens.
Yeah.
But it's not a simple love story by any means.
Right.
It's really this clash of worldviews and centuries.
Yeah, I think that's what I find so captivating about the novel.
Yeah.
Is you have Gore with this very 19th century mindset,
Right.
encountering a world that is just, light years ahead of what he knew.
Absolutely.
I'm particularly curious about how the book tackles his perspective on colonialism.
That's a huge aspect of the novel.
Yeah.
You have Gore's views that really offer a stark contrast to modern ideals.
Right.
And it forces us to confront the legacy of empire.
Exactly.
For example, his initial assumptions about the protagonist's role based on her gender, that highlights the evolution of societal norms and the ongoing struggle for equality.
Right. That makes me think about the protagonist's own search for identity.
Yeah.
As a British Cambodian woman, she seems to be caught between cultures,
Right.
which may even mirror the experiences of these time-traveling expats.
Exactly. And you've hit on another important layer of the story.
Yeah.
Bradley really cleverly weaves together the personal and the political.
Right.
She's showing how these individual experiences really reflect these broader societal forces at play.
Right.
So the protagonist's internal struggles with identity and belonging become really intertwined with those larger themes of displacement and adaptation.
It seems like she packs a lot into this debut
Yeah.
novel. From what I've gathered, she's known for her background in oral history and literary fiction.
Yes.
I wonder how that influences her writing style and world building in The Ministry of Time.
I think that background definitely shines through. The novel is praised for its sharp prose, its detailed world building,
Right.
and it's really compelling character development.
Yeah.
It's not your typical time travel adventure. It's a much more character-driven exploration of identity adaptation and the way of history.
All of that makes me wonder about the pacing.
Okay.
If there's so much emphasis on the character development and exploring these really complex themes,
Yeah,
does the plot move at a slower pace?
that's a good point.
Yeah.
And it's something that the book review touches upon.
Okay.
Some critics have noted that the pacing might feel slow, especially in the early sections.
Okay.
But that slower pace allows for this much deeper dive into the characters' inner lives
Right.
and the nuances of their relationship.
So it sounds like it's more of a character-driven story than a plot-driven one.
I would say so.
I can see how that might appeal to readers who enjoy a more introspective and thought-provoking experience.
Absolutely.
What about the time travel aspect itself?
Yeah.
Does the novel delve into the scientific mechanics of how it all works?
Interestingly, it doesn't.
Oh.
It really focuses more on the philosophical and emotional ramifications.
Okay.
So the how of time travel remains somewhat ambiguous,
Interesting.
which I think allows the story to explore the deeper questions about free will, destiny, and the impact of the past on the present,
Okay.
things like that.
Yeah. So that ambiguity is interesting. Do you think it adds to the mystery and suspense?
It definitely can.
Or could it leave some readers wanting more concrete explanations?
I think it could do both, you know. Some readers might be frustrated by that lack of, detailed mechanics,
Right.
while others might appreciate that it keeps the focus on the human element
Right.
and the questions that it raises about the nature of time itself.
Yet it seems like this novel really invites you to think about the bigger picture.
It does.
It's not just a time travel story.
Yeah.
It's a story about identity,
Yeah.
about colonialism, about the complexities of human relationships.
Absolutely. And speaking of relationships,
Yeah.
I am so fascinated by the dynamic between the protagonist and Gore.
Right.
You have these two people from vastly different time periods
Yeah.
with completely different worldviews,
Right.
finding common ground somehow.
It makes you wonder what draws them to each other, right?
Yeah.
Is it simply a matter of circumstance, or is there something deeper that connects them?
That is a great question, and I think the novel explores that beautifully.
Yeah.
It's not just about the initial attraction.
Right.
It's about the challenges they face and understanding each other's perspectives.
Right. Imagine trying to explain 21st century technology and social norms to someone from the 1840s.
I know, it's mind-boggling.
I would love to hear some specific examples from the book that illustrate this clash of cultures.
Sure.
What are some of the things that Gore finds most perplexing about modern life?
Well, one striking example is his reaction to the internet.
Okay.
It's completely beyond his comprehension.
Right.
He struggles to grasp the concept of, instant communication across vast distances.
Right.
Another example is his discomfort with the casualness of modern social interactions.
Okay.
He's used to a world with these strict social hierarchies,
Right.
formal etiquette, so he finds our informal ways quite baffling.
It's as if he's been dropped onto another planet.
It really is.
It makes you wonder if true understanding is even possible
Right.
when there's such a gulf between their experiences.
That is one of the central questions that the novel grapples with.
Yeah.
Can love truly bridge such a divide? Can two people from such different worlds ever fully connect on a deeper level?
I'm also curious about how their relationship impacts their individual journeys.
Okay.
Does Gore's presence challenge the protagonist's own views?
Yeah.
Does she, in turn, influence his perspective on the world?
Absolutely. The novel beautifully portrays how their relationship becomes a catalyst for growth and change.
Okay.
In both characters, the protagonist finds herself questioning her own assumptions and biases as she tries to see the world through Gore's eyes.
Right.
And Gore is forced to confront the limitations of his 19th century worldview.
It sounds like this novel is packed with thought-provoking themes and ideas.
It is.
Is there anything in the source material about the author's intentions?
We don't have access to any interviews or statements from Bradley.
Good.
But I think it's safe to say that she's crafted a story that goes beyond mere entertainment.
Right.
It's a novel that prompts us to think critically about our own assumptions, our own biases,
Yeah.
the ways in which history continues to shape our present.
That's what makes it such a compelling read, I think.
Yeah.
It's not just a time travel story. It's a story that speaks to our own experiences
Exactly.
and challenges us to see the world from different perspectives.
It reminds us that history isn't just this collection of dates and events.
Right.
It's a living tapestry that continues to influence our lives in profound ways.
I'm also curious about the critical reception of the novel.
Okay.
We've talked about the potential for slow pacing, the lack of detailed time travel mechanics.
Right.
Are there any other criticisms that readers or reviewers have raised?
One point that's been discussed is the novel's ambiguity when it comes to the ministry's motives.
Okay.
Some readers find this frustrating,
Yeah.
arguing that it leaves too many questions unanswered.
I can see how that could be a sticking point for some readers.
Yeah.
We're all drawn to stories that offer a sense of closure and resolution,
Right.
but perhaps that ambiguity is intentional. Could it be a way of mirroring the protagonist's own experience of navigating a world
I think so.
where information is tightly controlled?
It ties into that theme of government secrecy that runs throughout the novel.
Right.
The reader is left to piece together clues
Yeah.
and make their own judgments about the ministry's true purpose.
It almost makes you feel like you're a detective
Yeah.
alongside the protagonist
Yes.
trying to unravel the mystery.
Absolutely. And it speaks to a larger point about the nature of history itself.
Okay.
We often only get glimpses of the full picture,
Right.
and we're left to fill in the gaps with our own interpretations and assumptions.
That's a profound thought. And it makes me wonder if Bradley is inviting us to question the narratives we're given,
Yeah.
not just within the novel, but also in the wider world.
I think that's a very valid interpretation.
Yeah.
The novel certainly encourages us to think critically about the stories we're told,
Right.
the perspectives that might be missing.
Thinking about the themes of time travel and historical reckoning makes me wonder,
Yeah.
if you had the power to bring someone from the past into the present,
Okay.
who would you choose and why?
That's a fascinating question, and one that the book indirectly poses.
Right.
Personally, I'd be tempted to bring a figure whose perspective on our present world
Yeah.
would be both insightful and challenging.
Okay.
Perhaps someone like Mary Wollstonecraft,
Okay.
an 18th century feminist writer and philosopher.
Interesting.
I think her views on gender equality would spark some vital conversations in today's society.
That's an excellent choice.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the insights she'd offer on the progress we've made and the challenges that remain.
Right.
It also makes me think about the ethical considerations
Yeah.
of bringing someone from the past into a world so different from their own.
Absolutely. It's not a decision to be taken lightly.
Right.
The novel really highlights the potential for both wonder and disruption
Right.
when the boundaries of time are blurred.
Yeah, it seems like the Ministry of Time isn't just like a lighthearted adventure.
Yeah.
It really delves into some pretty heavy stuff.
It does.
It makes you question the nature of power,
Yeah.
the ethics of manipulating history,
Right.
the very idea of progress.
It does, and it does so in a really impressive way,
Yeah.
especially for a debut novel.
Right.
Bradley doesn't shy away from difficult questions, and she manages to weave all these kind of weighty themes
Yeah.
into this really compelling narrative that keeps you engaged, from beginning to end.
I'm also curious about the book's overall tone and style.
Okay.
We've talked about the slow pacing and the focus on character development.
Yeah.
Would you say it's a hopeful story or a more melancholic one?
That's interesting. I would say it's a blend of both.
Okay.
There is this kind of sense of melancholy that permeates the story,
Yeah.
particularly when you consider the themes of displacement and the weight of history.
Right.
But there's also, I think, an underlying current of hope,
Yeah.
especially in the protagonist's journey of self-discovery
Right.
and in the moments of connection that she finds with Gore.
It sounds like a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
It does.
It makes you reflect on your own life, the choices you make.
It's a novel that really invites you to contemplate the complexities of human existence
Yeah.
and the enduring power of the past.
Now, I know the book review mentioned some other novels
Yes,
that might appeal to readers who enjoyed The Ministry of Time.
they did.
Could you remind us of those titles?
Of course, they recommended Kindred by Octavia Butler.
Okay.
This is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mahtar and Max Gladstone.
Okay.
The Rise and Fall of D.O.D.O. by Neil Stephenson and Nicole Galland.
Okay.
The Psychology of Time Travel by Kate Masker and Haas.
Okay.
And The Shining Girls by Lauren Bukes.
Those are some great suggestions. They cover a wide range of styles and perspectives
They do.
within the time travel genre.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how different authors approach this concept
Right.
and the unique stories they create.
As we've been talking about The Ministry of Time, I can't help but picture it as a film
I know, me too.
or a television series.
It has all the elements
Yeah.
of a really compelling screen adaptation,
Right.
intrigue, romance, a touch of sci-fi,
Right.
thought-provoking themes.
The visual potential is huge.
Imagine seeing 19th century London
Yeah.
through Gore's eyes as he navigates the bustling streets of modern-day London.
And the emotional depth of the story would translate so well to the screen.
It would.
It would be a casting director's dream.
It would?
Who would you envision playing the protagonist in Gore?
Oh, that's fun.
I'm already picturing certain actors.
For the protagonist, we need someone who can convey, I think, a sense of quiet strength and vulnerability.
Right.
Someone who can capture her intelligence, her cultural duality, her growing sense of agency.
And for Gore,
Yes.
we need an actor who can portray both the formality and the underlying warmth of a 19th century gentleman.
Absolutely someone who can make us believe that he's grappling with a world completely beyond his comprehension, while still maintaining his dignity and his sense of self.
It would be a challenging role.
It would be, but so rewarding, I think, for the right actor.
Yeah, and the chemistry between the two leads would be so crucial to the success of this
It would.
adaptation.
It really hinges on that connection
Yeah.
between those two characters.
Well, if anyone from Hollywood is listening, you heard it here first.
Yes.
The Ministry of Time is ripe for adaptation.
It is.
But in the meantime, I highly recommend picking up the book.
Please do.
It's a story that will transport you through time and leave you pondering its mysteries
Yeah.
long after you've turned the final page.
I couldn't agree more. It's a thought-provoking and deeply engaging read.
Yes.
I think it'll resonate with anyone who's ever wondered about the power of the past to shape our present.
So before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
let's leave our listener with a final thought.
Okay.
If you had the power to bring someone from the past into the present, who would you choose and why? What kind of conversation would you want to have with them?
That's a wonderful question to ponder, and I think it speaks to the heart of what the Ministry of Time explores.
Yeah.
The past isn't just this distant echo. It's a living presence that continues to inform who we are and how we see the world.
Right.
And sometimes all it takes is a little imagination to bring those voices from the past into dialogue with our present.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the Ministry of Time.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you found it as thought-provoking and enjoyable as I did. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds engaged.